before that? Had he and I'll go a little further, had he ever handled any funerals for any other member of your family?
He has. My brother, he has.
What member of your family?
My brother.
So your brother, you've got another brother too, though?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your other brother had passed away?
Yes.
And how long ago had that been?
This will be 3-4 years coming up. My brother's been gone.
So it's coming up on 4 years?
Yes.
So at this time, you're talking about that your brother had just passed away probably 2 years before your mother passed away?
Yes.
So that's how you had Marlon J. Gary's name?
Yes.
And you approached the defendant because of the recommendation of a family member?
Yes, that's correct.
And that the family member identified that he would be more affordable or he'd be cheaper?
Yes, exactly.
Now, after you couldn't get the Marlon J. Gary to put the remains into an urn because it didn't have the paperwork showing it was properly cremated, or it was even, I guess, the remains of your mother.
Right.
What'd you do with the remains then?
I kept the remains and then I reached back out to Shawnte Hardin.
So now you're asking the defendant again to take care of this problem.
Yes.
And that was to get the remains into an urn.
Right.
What did he tell you?
He said that he would take care of it.
Okay. Now, did he require a payment up front?
No.
Okay, so he hasn't given you an urn, right?
No urn.
Now, approximately when did you put the cremains back in his custody?
I gave her back to her just like the second week of May.
And that would be in what year?
Of 2020.
Okay. Now, when the defendant was telling you that he would take care of getting the cremains into an urn,
right? How
many urns did you want?
It was 3.
One for each of the siblings?
Siblings, yes.
Okay. Now, when he's telling you that he would take care of it for you, did he tell you that, well, you know, it might be a bit of, what did he tell you about it might be a little bit of time because of COVID?
Nothing was mentioned to me. He just basically said that he was going to take care of it and that we would have it.
What did he tell you about whether there was a shortage of urns?
There wasn't no shortage of urns. He sent me a Halo website for us to go pick out urns, and that was that.
So you were able to go to this website, and it didn't say anything, or what did it say about that there's these urns, but they're not available?
No, the ones that we wanted were available.
Okay, so you give your mother's cremains back to the defendant, who's supposed to get urns.
Right.
How long? After a couple of weeks. Let's go a month.
Okay.
Did you get those remains back within a month?
No.
What about after 2 months?
No.
Okay. Now, when you're saying May, was it May of 2021 that you put those ashes back into the defendant's custody?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's go to August of 2021. Did you get the remains back by August of 2021?
Just about that time.
Okay, so as you recall, it was no less than several months after you gave them to him that you finally got them back.
That I was waiting for him, yes.
And lo and behold, did you have the urns?
No, I still didn't have the urns. No.
Well, how did you? Okay, in this time frame, okay, we're talking about there's month after month after month is passing. Now, previously, when you were trying to, you said you tried to get a hold of the defendant on the phone before the first time you got him back, correct?
Right.
What about this time? Were you, now after you've given him back to him, and all he's doing is getting them to put into an urn?
Yeah.
Did you try to contact him again, asking for information as to where they are, where is it at?
I contacted him, and then when I finally contacted him, he said something about the engraving man was supposed to have been sick. He was waiting for the urns to be engraved. And I'm like, okay. Then even after then, there was still no engraving or no urns presented to us.
So the defendant only could find one person, apparently, that can engrave something that would go on an urn.
I guess so.
Well, did you only contact him once?
No, several times.
And in this time frame of several months?
Yeah, wanted to know what was going on. Then after that, after it just kept taking too long, I just wanted my mom back. I didn't even care about getting the urns anymore. Just give me back my mom.
So in this time frame, did the defendant tell you, what did he tell you, if anything, about, well, you know what? Law enforcement conducted a search warrant at this cemetery, and they actually found your mother's remains in a car, and that they've seized them and they got them, and that's why I can't get them back to you.
I wasn't aware of that.
So, in other words, the defendant didn't tell you anything about that?
Never told me.
Well, now, how did you go about, at the time frame you finally got them back, how did you finally get them back?
Finally met up with him to finally get her back.
So you're saying met up with him?
Yeah, Shawnte Hardin.
Okay. How did that come about, or what did that entail?
Oh, gosh. For me to finally meet up with him, I gave his number out to everybody and had everyone calling his phone that day and was trying to get a hold of him, and finally got an answer off of my niece's phone. And that's how...
Before you go on, why did you have to have everybody trying to call him?
Because he wasn't answering my phone calls no more. Wasn't responding to text messages, my calls, taking anything.
So you're calling and you're sending text messages.
And I'm just getting ignored.
So now your strategy is
right.
Overwhelm the system with phone calls.
Right.
And the defendant finally answered a call to somebody whose number he didn't recognize, obviously.
Exactly.
And then you were the one who was able to talk to him.
Yes.
And you told him you wanted to, as you said a moment ago, I think, that you wanted to get the remains back.
Right. I wanted my mom back. I didn't want the urns or anything. Just bring me my mom.
Okay, so then you made arrangements to meet him somewhere?
Yes, I met him on Livingston and Lockbourne.
Just a minute.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you can repeat it again.
I met him at Livingston and Lockbourne. There's a Elvis budget place there. That's where I met him at.
And I'm sorry, but Livingston and Lockbourne is where? In what
Columbus.
city? I'm sorry.
Columbus.
Okay, so you're going to meet him at an intersection of a road down in Columbus.
Yes.
And what time of day did you finally arrange to meet him?
I didn't get my mom back until almost 10:30, 11 o'clock at night.
Was that the time you set to meet him there?
That was the time that he was available to finally get her to me.
So that's what he told you, meet at 11:30, whatever time that night at that location.
It wasn't no set time with him, because when you keep trying to get a hold of him, it was, oh, I'm running behind, or I'm coming. So basically the whole time is where we're going to meet at. First, we were supposed to meet at Children's Hospital, located in Columbus, Ohio. That didn't work. So then we finally just met there. And
Okay,
that's
so
the timing that it happened, but there was no exact set timing.
Okay, so you meet him. Did you have to, was there any kind of paperwork or anything like that?
No paperwork.
He just handed you the remains?
Yep. Just
When
gave
did the
me back my
remains
mom.
get returned to you in?
In the white box with the label with her name on it.
So it was the same white box that he'd taken several months before?
Yes, sir. Same box.
What happened then?
Well, I was upset because on the box there were stains on it, so I was kind of upset about that. And then he even asked me to give her back to him for him to finally try to get it right. And at that point, I said, no, you're not getting her.
So it had been several months where the sole thing he was supposed to do was get the urns and put your mother in those urns.
That was it.
He doesn't do it, and now he's saying, give her back to me a third time, and I'll take care of it.
And no, it wasn't happening a third time, no.
Now, there was a death certificate that was made up in this instance. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, did the defendant, as part of the service he was providing for the funeral arrangements, did he provide your family with that copy of the certified death certificate?
No, sir.
Did you get a copy of a death certificate?
I had to get it myself.
Well, did you pay for that service to the defendant?
Yes, sir.
So in the original arrangements, part of the money that you were paying him was to get the certified copy of the death certificate.
Yes.
Which is something you believed you needed to have, was a certified copy of your mother's death certificate.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you got to say yes or no.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. She can't record head nods.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
That's fine. Well, did the defendant give you any kind of refund, regardless of how much, for the fact that he never did provide that?
Nope, there was no refund.
Well, how did you go about getting a certified copy?
I basically went to Vital Records and got my mom's death certificate, and I had to pay out of pocket $25 for me to get it.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Mrs. Lee, I'm Rick Kurgan, and I represent Sean. I'm going to ask you a few questions.
Oh, we have to take a break because we're at the bottom of the hour. This is the perfect point to stop the video. We're going to see the cross-examination, if I could get that out, in just a moment, where we're seeing another one of these family members of the decedent saying this reverend fell far short of all of his promises. Stay right here with Court TV Live.
Car you need all on your phone.
Staying with us here at Court TV Live, I'm Julie Grant. Let's go back to court together now. We're in Toledo, Ohio at the Phony funeral home trial. We're seeing witness number 35 about to be cross-examined by the defense. Her name is Brianna Lee. She is the daughter of decedent Lanice Lee. Take a look.
Mrs. Lee, I'm Rick Kurgan, I represent Sean. I'm going to ask you a few questions.
Okay.
If you don't understand any of them, let me know and I'll re-ask it, okay?
Okay.
I don't mean to point fingers, but your mother was a large woman, was she not?
She was.
And did you know if that can cause a problem with embalming?
No, sir.
And Mr. Hardin was recommended to you by a friend of the family who had used his services?
Yes.
And the friend of the family must have been satisfied with his services.
I guess to her knowledge, but not to mine, I wasn't satisfied.
And you had utilized the services of Marlon Gary before?
That's correct.
And you chose not to use him for your mom?
That's correct.
And I'm trying to make sure I understand your testimony correctly. Did you say you had gone online and ordered urns?
No, I had went online to look at the urns and picked out the one that I wanted for me to tell him, for him to order the urns and get it engraved.
Did you do that?
Yes.
But urns never showed up, if I understand you right.
Urns or engraving never showed up.
And did Mr. Gary explain why he thought he needed a certificate
He
to
said
move the cremains into urns?
he said that he needed it for him to identify exactly who he was putting inside the urn. Basically, identification.
And you would provide the identification by saying that's mom.
Right.
And that wasn't good enough.
Well, I had to go and get the death certificate, and then there was still other documents that I was missing as well.
Ms. Lee, that's all I have. Thank you, Your Honor.
Just one or two questions. Ma'am, in response to the defense lawyer was asking a couple questions about Marlon Gary.
Yes.
And he identified that that you had the opportunity, or you had used Marlon Gary before, correct?
That's correct.
And you didn't use him this time.
Right, that's correct.
Now, what was your understanding? How did Marlon Gary's costs compare to what the defendant was charging?
Well, Marlon J. Gary's prices were a little bit more extreme than what Mr. Shawnte Hardin was offering us.
What role or what effect did that have in the decision to use the defendant?
Basically, it was just shortness of notice when my mom passed away. It was unexpected, and at that time, I wasn't working, didn't really have the money or anything like that, and we had to all just come together to put money together, and he was the cheapest.
And when you say come together, basically you took up a collection in the family.
Collection. Yes, sir. So
And
everybody
you-
was pitching in to help.
And you went with the guy that was the cheapest.
Right.
Were you satisfied in the end with the services he provided?
No, sir.
How did the entire experience that you had with your mother's funeral at this point in time, how did that affect you?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance.
Mayor, Mr. Relevant.
Relevance is that this is the individual, it goes to her credibility and the effect of her testimony, Your Honor.
The objection is sustained, rather. Not relevant for that.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Berger?
Nothing further.
Thank you very much for your testimony, for coming today.
appreciate you.
Step down.
Thank you.
Carefully.
Witness it canceled, so.
Judge, 2:30, this is the usual time for our afternoon break.
How long do you think the witness going to be?
I would say no longer, I don't think, than not this witness, but the previous witness.
20 minutes or so.
I'd say probably at least 30 minutes.
We take our break now, a little earlier than we.
Thank you very much.
But